Just a quick video to show off the camper bed conversion I did. My Rav4. We took this on a road trip for our honeymoon for 2.5 weeks, sleeping in the back almost every day. So you can see we took out the rear seats, replaced it with this frame. We've got access hatches in the middle and at the front for getting to our luggage. So made these panels with dual folds so that we can get in to the front area while we're driving. There's enough room to keep a cooler up on that side. We'd keep our dry foods here, our clothing on the opposite side, and then camping supplies in the back hatch. These two side hatches are held up with one of these knee joint type hinges. I put this weather stripping on the boards, which keeps the wood from rattling around as we drive. There's just some garbage in here right now. The rear hatch here lifts up. We had a camping stool that would prop it up perfectly when placed in the latch there. It lifts up high enough that we can get to the spare tire compartment easily enough. But you can see there's just enough room for our camping stove and our camping chairs and stuff like that. It's mostly been taken out now. Simply cut out some pieces of cardboard and painted them black to put in the windows here. Those got placed in there and left in there for the duration of the trip. Have a similar bigger piece to go in the back window in the trunk. That worked pretty well. We put that in and take it out every night. And then I sewed cloth curtains which would hang up on the side windows, and then a big curtain to go across behind the back seats here. To set it up, pull the front seats forward. They didn't have to be quite all the way forward, but that allows these front panels to flip forwards. They simply rest here. This board fits on the right side of the seat. You can't recline fully with the bed in place, but you can recline most of the way. And then on the left side, it just rests on the center console. Opposite side works the same way. No real point in showing you that. The center hinges here, because they only have to open 90 degrees, I was able to put upside down and recessed them into the wood with the router. I also countersunk for the screws so that they're all fairly flush. Same thing for the back hinge here. Unfortunately, the front hinges have to fold up 180 degrees so that they can fold all the way back, and then so that they can move like this. You can also see that I beveled the corner of this board here, which unfortunately this plywood is a little warped. I went with very cheap plywood. The total cost of the car bed was around $200 or less for screws, wood, supplies. But it's just enough that you can simply lift this and move it back smoothly. That rounded corner lets it go over the gap here. Another nice detail is the fact that this disassembles in sections. So you can see this panel has 1, 2, 3 panels, and then it's got some machine screws, 1, 2. So if I undo these 2 screws, this comes off as one panel. These center pieces come off as one panel. You can see there's 1, 2, and then a third center panel, which connects it to the frame, and then the rear hatch is 1, 2 panels, which again held on, in this case by 4 machine screws. So I'm going to take those off now to collapse it down. Alright, less than a minute later, I've removed the 10 screws that hold these panels down, so now I can remove them. Oh, forgot to remove these screws. So there's 2 of those I need to remove real fast. Alright, removed those screws, so now I can fold up center hatch. Something I didn't point out earlier is that the rear hatch has this board on the bottom to stiffen it so it doesn't bow in the center. There we go, there's all the panels taken out. And now you can see the frame. So the frame is held together in much the same way. I've got these longer machine screws holding it together so it'll come out in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 pieces, I believe. How is the frame held in place? Well, I've got some bent metal brackets here, which attach to these outer frames and go under the bolt for the tie down here. Same thing on the other side. And then this large frame that goes across the center, I simply attached it at a couple of the passenger seat mounting points. So again, I've got this big L frame bent to match the car's metal, so I could put one of the original seat bolts through there. So I'm going to quickly take out all of the seat bolts, which I recommend putting in after you take the seats out so you don't lose them, and also just to keep the holes plugged up. And then I'm going to go through and remove all of these bolts, and that will break it down into the separate frame components so it can be stacked up for storage. Alright, I took out all of the bolts that hold the frame members together. You can see they're all fairly long because they have to make it through the 2x2, 2x3, or 2x4 framing. So I'll put those down. That's all the bolts that come out together, so about 20 in total. Now you can see how I can simply disassemble it piece by piece. One downside to using cheap pine wood is this one in particular. I went through a knot and it just leaked sap all over the car down there. So that's kind of gross. The reason for going with 2x4 and 2x3 lumber is that it's cheap and it's very easy to quickly make changes. Everything was basically measured right before I cut it. So I'd place one piece down, measure, cut, place the next piece, measure, cut. This piece here, I just want to point out this extra beam down here. It's partially to keep stuff from sliding into the main storage area, and partially to keep the spare tire cover from sliding back that way, because without it, that cover will slide back 1.5 inches or so. That just lifts out. This is the single heaviest piece, and it really doesn't need to be this heavy. But again, it's going for ease of construction. So, those are all the components. I'll have to try to stack those up in the storage locker in some sort of semi-compact manner. I just wanted to point out that it's been a total of 10 minutes disassembly time to here, including filming. Alright, got the seats placed in there. I also found the bag that I kept in the center console, which had all the screws and bolts that I needed. So I've now got all 4 of the screws for this plastic piece, as well as you can see these 2 plastic push connector thingies. So those go there, not screws. You can see the other 2 screws. Seats go in pretty easily. You've got good access to the bolts back here when the seats are folded forwards, and you've got good access to the bolts in the front while the seats are leaning back. So I just need to torque those to spec, and then there's only one more step. Okay, seats are now reinstalled. This little cover just snaps into place. Boom, done. Okay, a bit less than an hour after I started. Everything is now packed up. Seats are back in. Time to take this pile of wood to the storage locker. And there it is, put away in the storage locker behind the roof rack, which we didn't use this year. packs down pretty nicely.